This hour is brought to you by Jeremy Temple Law Office of Bloomington. Personal injury, criminal, business, whatever you need, Jeremy Temple Law Office will get you taken care of.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
So come on along and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary here on this Tuesday, March 3rd. Man, I am happy to say that. Todd O'Leary with us as well as Jim Coyle sitting in. Jake's at the wheel. On the program today, Colin Hartman's going to join us. We've got a lot to talk about. Caleb First has decided to take his services to West Lafayette. Indiana prepares to host the Gophers tomorrow night and open up the baseball season. Lots going on. Todd O'Leary, how are you, man?
Oh, man, I'm good. Good. Trying to figure out this college basketball scene and
good luck with that.
What all needs that? I know it. I know. This is
good luck with that.
Insane year.
Before we came on, we're just for fun sitting there going through all the different conferences. We'll talk about that. Bid stealers. Who's going to be a bid stealer? I mean, not that Indiana's in danger, but it's going to affect the seeding. But it's always fun to look at that kind of stuff. Caleb First, man, that's a big get for Purdue, Todd. Big man's 6'10". He's played really well in high school. Kind of surprising me that he committed this early. Obviously, I think this has to do with Christian Lander's commitment, but Christian Landers is going to reclassify. I have not heard that yet about Caleb First, but surprising to see an early commitment like that.
Yeah, in all reality, I hope it's a trend that kids are going to start doing now. I mean, this is kind of the way it was, back in the 90s.
It's a lot nicer.
I mean, first of all, I shouldn't say this because I don't know for a fact it didn't happen, but I didn't see a big press conference, and I didn't see, just like Christian Lander, I mean, they just made an announcement, and it wasn't, I'm going to make my announcement by, and everybody was kind of, sitting by their phones waiting to see what was going to happen and all that. I mean, they made a decision. They said what it was and went with it. And I respect and like that a lot better than making a big spectacle. I think both of those kids. Yeah, I do too.
I remember getting a text the minute that Caleb or Christian Lander committed. I got a text from a fan, said, "I can't believe he committed without a big press conference." I'm like, don't you just love it?
Yeah, seriously. But I mean, and I hope this is kind of what it gets back to. I hope that kids make their decision a little bit earlier, and hey, you know what? When you know, and when, if he knows he wants to be a Boilermaker, then, quit letting everybody, court you and call you and bug you for the next year and a half. I mean,
yeah, he was a Purdue lean. I think a lot of people thought that that's where it was going. But you mentioned something that really is true. I mean, you talk about you hoping that it's a trend how these kids are doing. If you look at Indiana's current four-person commitment class that they have, all four of those kids did that very thing. They just said, "Hey, here's what I'm going to do." Bam! They just sent a message out. That was it. All four of them. And three of those four Indiana kids. But that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I just hope that kind of catches on and kids realize that there's always going to be, a select group of guys that want to have that, and it's not even anything wrong with it. I just don't like it as well, and I hope it gets back to this.
I can always kind of go this route to make something funny, but can you imagine a kid coming in to play for Bob Knight and right off of doing some big elaborate press conference, how that would have gone?
No, I cannot. I absolutely cannot.
Oh my God. I can see Bob Knight having a press conference set up for when that kid arrived just to mess with him.
To mock it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's a big get for Matt Painter. I mean, that's a good kid out of Fort Wayne, and that's an area that Indiana does not own. If they ever have, really. Fort Wayne split off. You got Notre Dame up there as well as Purdue, and Indiana fighting for the talents of those kids.
Yeah, it seems like you also got Michigan State. I mean, it seems like Michigan State, even though they're not within the state, they get a lot of kids out of that area and out of Indiana in general. So
Well, it's probably just as close to East Lansing as Bloomington from,
for sure,
from up there.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not, obviously that's a good program. And, if you've got the opportunity to go there, I mean, what they're recruiting, the whole spiel is based off of is, getting deep in the NCAA tournament. And, that's a big hammer to be able to throw down when you walk into somebody's house and say, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the stat is, but I'll bet they've had more than 75% of the kids that have come there in Tom Izzo's career go to the Final Four. That's a big deal.
Absolutely. That's how it used to be in Indiana. And that's something that you guys used to hold up with pride, as rightfully so. Hey, make sure you hit us up on the text line, 812-269-6367, 812-269-6367. Get your questions, comments in. Tim did. So he said, should we be worried for IU football with these coaching changes and players leaving down to just 2 scholarship running backs now after Samson James' departure? Yeah, it's they were running back heavy, and now they are running back light. Probably talk about this more later, but man, they've lost a lot. They've lost their offensive coordinator, the defensive line coach, special teams coordinator. They've lost Samson James, Corey Cronk, Peyton Ramsey, and the strength and coordinator duo of Dr. Ray and Dave Ballou. That's a lot, man.
That it is a lot, and I'll tell you, the coaching side of it is. That's something they're going to deal with. The more success they have, the more opportunities guys are going to get to move up to, SEC schools and bigger quote schools. But, so from the players, I saw Samson James enter the portal. So does that mean, has he decided where he's going? Has Peyton Ramsey decided where they're going?
No, I haven't heard Peyton Ramsey's decision where he's going to go yet. And Samson James just entered it. So no, and it would all be speculation only on my part if I said this, but I know he's close to Dave Ballou. Dave Ballou spent a long time at Avon High School, and that's where Samson James went to school. And of course, Dave Ballou and Dr. Ray both as a pair picked up by Alabama to go down there. Not saying that's where Samson James ends up, but wouldn't be a shocker.
Fairly ironic that it happens in the same week.
Samson James was a huge get for Tom Allen because, first of all, he was the best running back in the state of Indiana, but then he had committed to Ohio State. And then, like the weekend after Indiana goes to Ohio State, gives them a good game, but gets beat. He flipped to Indiana that previous year. So that's kind of a loss, definitely, for Tom Allen. I mean, he's losing some kids in Samson James and Peyton Ramsey that mean a lot to him personally, I think.
Well, and so, go back to it in, our conversations with, I think it was Matt Weaver or Dustin a couple of weeks ago, and we're talking about the Big Ten starting that, one-time transfer option where kids can get, they don't even have to give an excuse or do anything. They can just transfer one time. And, when you think about that, or when it's first brought up, you think about that as a positive, and you look at it and you're like, okay, well, there's some good things that can happen out of this. And then all of a sudden you start to realize, oh, whoa, wait a minute. We might be losing a bunch of good guys out of this.
There is a running back from Arkansas that is interested in Indiana looking at, so we'll talk about that too later on. But, yeah, man, that's a lot, though. I mean, like you talked about, the coaching side, the offensive coordinator is huge, special teams coordinator, huge. Dave Ballou and Dr. Ray were pioneers in their field, the strength conditioning coach, and then Dr. Ray approached it from a scientific angle to where they were doing some really special things at Indiana. And, of course, now they're going to be doing special things at Alabama. I can't wait to see what their pay is, just out of curiosity, because I think they were making both over $400,000 each at Indiana. So I'm thinking they may get bumped both to $1 million at Alabama, man.
Really?
I mean,
wouldn't shock you. It wouldn't shock me with that program.
Nick Saban said that we want the best and we go out and get the best. And they did.
Yep.
Man, Baylor, Texas Tech, that was a great game last night. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that. That thing was close.
Yeah, it was. That was, there wasn't a whole lot of
I thought Texas Tech was going to come up with an upset on the road for a minute, boy.
And that would have been, I still saw this just proves I don't know a lot of what these guys are thinking when it gets down to the end of the year. But
I
they
don't think
still
they'll
have
be,
Baylor. They have Baylor on a one line still after losing twice in a week. I just don't get it. How could Dayton be ranked third in the country and not be a 1 seed?
They are a 1 seed.
Dayton.
Oh, Dayton's not listed as a 1 seed?
No.
What are they at? So they're a 2?
2.
Who are their 4 ones?
San Diego State, Baylor, Gonzaga,
Kansas. You know, the one that I disagree with is San Diego State. I
totally
just don't
agree.
But
San Diego. So if you don't want to make the argument, you say, well, Baylor plays a lot more talent. You know, they play better schools. That loss to TCU for one. That's TCU is not a tournament team. So that's a bad loss. So yes, that could be a reason to bump you to 2 line. But let's just say you want to take their strength of schedule and bump it that far above Dayton and say, that's why they should get it. You can argue San Diego State and Dayton's, schedules are very, very similar. And, Dayton has easily, they're on the longest win streak in the country. They have easily,
they've got some better wins
than
I think
the
San Diego
test.
State.
Yeah, you're not going to say San Diego State's strength of schedule is better than Dayton's. So, and I get it. Dayton doesn't play. I still think Dayton in their conference plays more quality opponents.
Well, they've got some good wins
from
early in the season. I don't know if it was over in Maui or wherever it was way, way back when we watched those. They had a couple of nice wins then. But I think they should be a number 1 seed at the worst in the West, and you can make San Diego State a 2 seed out in the West.
Yeah, so they're saying that's what didn't make any sense because I think San Diego State would probably prefer that, but they're putting right now they've got San Diego State as a 1 seed in the East. So, if you were them, would you rather have
they have Gonzaga in the West.
Would you rather have a 2 seed in the West or a 1 seed in the East? If I were them,
I would not be surprised to see it end up that way, but as it should. Okay, leave Gonzaga out there in the West. Let them be a 1. Let San Diego State be the 2 for regional purposes. Bring Dayton back, make them the 1 seed in the East.
Yeah, when you look at Dayton, they do have 2 losses, okay? One of them is to Kansas in overtime, and one of them is to Colorado in overtime. Kansas is ranked number 1 in the country. Colorado is also ranked. So, it's not like that's a bad loss, and that was back in December. So, they have wins. They're not incredible, but they have wins over Virginia Tech, Georgia, St. Mary's. They won at St. Mary's. That's a big time win. St. Mary's will be an NCAA tournament team. They beat North Florida. That's a team that has a decent chance at making the tournament. And then, they've just handled everybody that, VCU's been ranked for a good portion of the season. They've handled them easily a couple times. They've just walked through their conference. And yes, you're always going to have close games. Indiana's 1976 national championship team had like 3 overtime games. It isn't like they beat everybody by 60 all year. So you're going to have some close games, and they've had that. But just you look at I think they're on like a 17-game win streak or 18-game win streak, and they've beaten some good teams. I don't see how in the world any eye test would put San Diego State above them for a 1 seed.
Absolutely. Hey, let's take a break. We've got Colin Hartman joining us on the program today. Looking forward to that, but plenty more to talk about after that as well. We got a little more football to talk about. Keep going with that, but I want to talk about UCLA some more and seeing a program turn around like that because, man, at the beginning of the year, we thought they were heading towards the tank.
Yeah, they were in the bottom of the league.
You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We're back with more right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 Clarksville.
pizza, burgers, beer. We all want a wink smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Hey, it's Michael Lewis, former Indiana University player and current UCLA assistant basketball coach, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
One big fight. Born on the bad side.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Tuesday, March 3rd. Joined now by one of our good friends, Colin Hartman, former Hoosier player. Colin, how's it going, man?
Doing well. How about you?
Can't complain. Todd's with us as always as well.
What's up, buddy?
Yeah, what up, Todd?
How are you?
How's things going for Colin Hartman, man? Anything new? What's shaking with you?
Nah, nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. Can't complain. So even if I did, nobody would listen. So here we are.
You got that going for it. Cool. I understand you've been doing some coaching. I followed your post the other day. So you've been doing a little coaching. Who are you coaching, first of all?
So I coach a group of 8th grade boys. I'm a part owner in a program called Hickory Hoops up on the north side, and we put together our first elite team with the kids that we have, and so I'm coaching that team.
Awesome. How's it going? How's the team doing?
We're getting better. The guys. I run our practices. Granted, we only go hour and a half, but I run our practices pretty in line with IU's practices. So these kids are getting a little more than they bargained for, I think. But I'm truly seeing a lot of growth in them, not just as basketball players, but as young men, and hold themselves accountable and being coachable and not getting in their own head and getting all emotional during the games and stuff like that. It's never perfect, but it's rewarding to see the growth that each one of these guys are making. So I think that's the main reason I do it.
Todd, you've done a lot of this as well back with the AAU programs. When you guys go make that first move into coaching, what's that like, that first move into that?
Well, I can tell you from my perspective, I didn't handle it very well. And I tried to emulate, I tried to act like what my coaches were like. That's all I'd ever learned. That's the only thing I had ever seen. My high school.
What grade were you coaching, Todd?
Yeah, no, I started out with second graders. So.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
you were coaching night on the second graders.
It was embarrassing. Trust me.
Oh.
I spent many years making a fool of myself in the gym on the weekend.
I can see Todd throwing lunch boxes across the floor.
I've
man.
broken clipboards. My middle son still brings up, literally to this day, like we talked about it last week, that in a game he had a really bad turnover and I took him out of the game. I'm telling this story because I want you to understand how wrapped up in it you can get and how out of control an adult can get in these situations. And I yanked him out of a game and basically pinned him by his throat up against the wall in the gym in the middle of everyone over a turnover he had in the second grade. And
that's some nice stuff, dude. You can't do that.
Yeah, no, it was like it took some crazy things in life to get me to realize some things are just not as important as I have made them out to be. And, coaching AAU is one of the best character builders I think that an athlete and a former athlete can go through, because, it really helps you. Like what you just talked about is the most important thing those kids can learn, is keeping their composure and not getting too excited or too down on themselves when there's losses. And, I used to, my biggest issue is when we would lose a game, I would take it personally. Like I got out coached, or
right.
How can I not out coach? How can my team not beat somebody else's team that, some dad is coaching on the other sideline? And I'm just like, I took it personally and I took it out on the kids. And it's one of the most embarrassing things I have to talk about in my past.
Well, that should make you feel a lot better, Colin Hartman, as we approach how your coaching has been going. How's the experience been for you so far?
And this is the thing. I decided way early, if I was going to get into it, I wasn't going to do anything less than 8th grade, anything below 8th grade. Because I would have been just like Todd. My fuse is very short. And I'm not good at putting it into perspective of they're in second grade. So I can see where Todd's coming from, just because it's a mindset, and, you just have no breaks, coming out of college and stuff like that. And you're just like, these kids should get this. It's not that hard. They're very simple concepts, blah, blah, blah. But so that's why I went with 8th grade, to be able to, because kids are starting to, they're young adults at this point. They're starting to become young adults, and they're in that phase where they should be able to retain stuff and know plays and know defensive schemes and stuff like that I can truly implement and be a coach rather than a babysitter. So it's been interesting.
You're right on with that. And truly, like the probably 7th grade through, juniors in high school was just it's some of the most fun. I finally, and I still was competitive, and I still was too aggressive. I probably still hadn't learned all my lessons, but that was the most fun. Like that was when it was a lot of fun. You travel to the AAU tournaments, you get to spend a lot of time with the families, and really that's when, you will. Is this your first year doing it? Is this your first year coaching?
Yeah.
I mean, you have a great demeanor for it, and I think you'll do great with it, but enjoy the relationships with the families and with the people that you meet when you go to different places. I mean, they'll, traveling in that AAU I was having this conversation yesterday, that since, in the last 9 years, the only vacation I've ever been on was AAU tournaments. And that's because in the summertime, like we were literally going on one every weekend. I mean, it is a full-time job. So,
oh yeah,
it's just a blast. And I think you'll do great with it, because you have a good personality and a good demeanor to work with the kids, and you guys will do great.
That.
Works very well with the officials, apparently. That's going well. Talk about the relationship between the officials in those games. I'm giving Colin some grief because he got booted from a game. We're just giving him a little grief, having some fun. But how fun was? I mean, talk about that experience. He got tossed from a game not too long ago.
Yeah, it was last weekend. It was a 9 a.m. game on Saturday morning.
Nice.
About 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning. And
so you're tossed from a game before most people are out of bed.
Exactly. And it was a 50-minute drive from my place to get to the gym. So I was already having a kind of a flustered morning getting up to the gym. I get to the gym, start coaching, and ref calls terrible call, just atrocious. And, it was one of those calls where they gave the little guy the benefit of the doubt because my player was more athletic and he had a clean block. It was literally like he was playing volleyball, but the kid fell. And so we gave him the call, and I argued it a little bit respectfully because it was early in the game. I really didn't really care, but I don't want my kid the refs don't understand, in my opinion, that they have to communicate with somebody on what happens with the calls. You can either hear it from all 15 kids, or you can hear it from 2 coaches, adults. And so these guys didn't want to hear it from anybody, I guess. So he was standing right next to me, made the call. I was at half court, mind you, on the sideline, and he was about 5 feet from me, made the call. I was like, what? You called that from here? And it's a terrible call. He's like, I had the angle. You didn't see it. And I was like, dude, you're 5 feet from me. How do you have the angle and I don't? Anyways, I come down and I'm like, whatever. Like, okay, I'm good. Next play. Is
this where the cuss words started flying?
No, not yet.
No. Oh, not yet.
They never came, which I was very surprised with myself.
Damn it.
I know. Very surprised with myself. So I said, you know what? Because he's like, okay, he wants to start explaining the call. And I was like, look, I'm past that. I'm good. Like, whatever. I'm going to start coaching my kids. Get teed up for that. And I'm just flabbergasted because I didn't even earn that one. And I'm kind of mad that I didn't get to earn it. And so I argued with him a little bit more. I was like, you know what, dude, just go ahead. Do your job. I'll do mine. Right. Next trip down, this dude runs by our bench and tells me I need to sit down. And mind you, I never sit down when I coach these games. I'm always up, walking. Some of the times I'm on the freaking court. I just super competitive. And so next trip down, he comes by, tells me I need to sit down. And I said, why? Does the other coach have to sit down too? He's like, no. And I was like, well, why not? He's like, you got a tech. And I was like, okay, is it in the rule book that I have to sit after I get a tech? And he was like, no. And I was like, then I'm not sitting. I'm going to coach my team. And he said, coach, you need to sit down. I need you to sit down. I was like, I'm not even on the court. What do you mean? And so my assistant coach comes up behind me and is like, Colin, I'll take over it. And then the ref says, no, you both need to sit down. Your whole coaching staff needs to sit down. And I said, he didn't get a tech, so why does he have to sit down? And so this guy's logic was just ridiculous.
A very slow process it took to get this to happen.
Dude, this is in the first 5 minutes of the game.
Oh, wow. You're kidding me.
Dude, I got tossed about 5.5 minutes in. I drove 50 minutes north and 50 minutes back home for 5.5 minutes of gameplay. So
that was a short gift, at least.
Oh, God. And next time there will be much more antics on my way out. But so he's like, I was like, dude, what are you doing? And so I said it loud enough. I was just like, look, you're making this about you. This isn't about me or you. It's about the kids. And, right now you're on a little power trip, it feels like. And he didn't like that one. So I got teed up for that.
Man, that was weak.
You're gone.
Yeah, you definitely didn't get your money's worth. I'm sure that I don't know, Todd.
I'm pissed.
Todd, have you ever been kicked? I know you've done a lot of coaching. Surely you got booted at least once.
Oh, come on now.
I know. I didn't want to throw it out there. I assume.
Todd got booted for choking his own child.
Here's one thing.
What's your best story?
Here's one thing I will tell you, Colin. In when you go play in some of the bigger AAU tournaments, so it's not like one at the field house or one at whatever. When you go play in some of the bigger AAU tournaments, if you get a technical, it is a rule. You have to sit down. Everyone on your bench has to sit down. You're not allowed to stand up anymore. That's their way of trying to prevent people from getting a technical. So that actually is a rule. I don't know that it was stupid in the game that you play. I agree with you because what it does is it takes away from your ability to coach the kids the way they deserve to be coached. And I agree with you, except for you just wait. You're just getting into it. Wait till you see some of the crazy coaching antics you'll see from dads and parents and people across the country. Like AAU basketball, there should be a full-time reality shows about craziness in coaching in AAU basketball, because it is.
Well, I lived it as a player.
Yeah,
I've been in a couple all-team scuffles. I've seen a couple parents scuffles. I mean, I'll tell you this.
There is a dad of a Division I basketball player in the country right now whose dad was officiating a game that I was in that gave our fans a technical for cheering. They didn't like the way they cheered, so they got a technical. And by the time, about 2.5 minutes later, he was taking his shirt off, trying to fight me in the middle of the floor. So I can assure you, and I'm not proud of this. Believe me, I'm not proud.
Did you take your shirt off and square up?
I didn't even get kicked out. This was, thank God, this was later in my coaching career, because early on, that there would be some video of that somewhere, and it would not be pretty on my part. But yeah, it's just, AAU basketball is, it is people. And here, think about this. Like, wait till you have kids, Colin, and you're in a situation where you want the best for your kids and you want all that. And then you feel like, here's the really tough situation that, I'll give you one word of advice that, if nothing else, will just help you avoid some frustration over time, is that guy. Okay. That guy that's officiating on Saturday morning at 9:00 he's
getting his $20 and getting out.
And you know what? And I applaud him for that. He's got a job and he's working and he's doing that. But he's not Ted Valentine. Right. He's not Ed Hightower. He's not been trained properly in doing so. And so, and Colin, you do have a name and you are recognizable, and yes, it is going to be made about you. And that's why, if I could go back, this is the biggest example of the pot calling the kettle black in the history of the world. But I'm just trying to get you to avoid the embarrassment that I did of myself for many years, and just don't even make a comment to the officials. Try to be as stoic as ever possible, but there will still be times when you'll boil
I'm
over.
too competitive.
I know. Just make it about the kids. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I am being a hypocrite in saying this to you. Believe me, the parents of my kids that I coached forever are probably calling me on the phone right now.
They're like, these words are coming out of Todd's mouth.
Yeah,
they're like saying, he's saying what?
They are calling BS right now. I can assure you of that. But I'm just telling you, it's life lesson learned. Because when I was your age, I can assure you, I was an idiot when it came to this.
Colin Hartman, the Indiana Hoosiers have 2 games left, man. They're look to be in the tournament right now. They've got 2 home games, like I said, which they should win both of those and hopefully move themselves up on a seed line or so. But what have you thought about how they've been playing here of late? Seemed to be, even though they lost at Illinois, the play was better than certainly we saw at Purdue.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that I'm seeing a little bit more is these dudes are playing harder. That's just really what it's kind of coming down to. For me personally, when you stop worrying about all the outside stuff and you stop worrying about whether shots are falling or not, and you start playing the dudes that are playing hard and doing the little things like rebounding, trying to get stops and really nutting up and trying to D up and stuff and worry about the things that you can control. You can't control if the ball goes in or not to a certain extent. And I think that a lot of these guys are starting to do that, so a lot more things are going right for them, if that makes sense. So letting the game come to them instead of just forcing the action and things of that nature. But I don't know. I think we just need to, like you said, win these couple games. It'd be nice to get 1 or 2 in the Big Ten tournament. But it's all about when you peak. It's all about when you peak. I mean, if we start playing our best basketball moving forward, then
yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think the Purdue game was an embarrassing effort in general. Right. I mean, the play was whatever, but the effort was embarrassing. And then, followed it up with what I, hope is a trend and kind of figuring it out a little bit. I really felt like, there was some, just along the lines of what we're talking about in the AAU officiating. I mean, there was just some horrible officiating going on, and I generally don't blame too much stuff on the officials, because I do know it all kind of evens out. But man, there was some tough calls made, and the players seemed to try to play right through it, and that part of it, like, I was super impressed with the
Rob
demeanor
Tennessee.
and the way the kids just were kind of locked in and knew what they needed to do, and that part of it kind of goes along with what you're saying. I mean, I think they're kind of figuring it out a little bit.
You see that clip with Rob Tennessee where, I don't know if one of you guys posted it or not, but someone posted about Rob, dude getting up in Rob's face after a tie up, and Rob didn't react. And I think the tweet said that, had Rob reacted, it would have been a double technical. So most likely. So how do you not give the Illinois kid a technical
that's what I think
that?
has everybody. That's what had me so frustrated about that situation. You didn't reward the guy who. I mean, if you talk to the coaching staff, the officials, the director of officials, the director of the Big Ten, Rob handled that exactly the way they would want one player to handle it, and the other guy should get penalized for being an idiot.
Yeah,
and he wasn't.
Trying to initiate something.
Right. So the only way that anything happens to that other player, and that is if Rob pushes him, then they both get a double technical. And I'm just like, man, that was a great opportunity because right now, why would that kid not do that again in the next game? I mean, there's no ramifications against it.
None.
Frustrating. Yeah.
At
frustrating.
all.
I know.
Colin, what's new with you, brother?
I commend Rob for that 100%. I
Agreed.
mean, that's a young dude. He could have easily reacted.
Sure.
What's next up for you, brother? I know you're working hard and doing. Well, first of all, before I forget, if people that would like to participate in your coaching endeavors, where can they find all that information?
On Twitter, you can follow Hickory Hoops. You can follow myself. We have a website. Just search Hickory Hoops if you guys want to get involved. Whether you want to start coaching kids, we're always looking for coaches, or if you want your kids in the program, we have a bunch of different teams of all levels of talent, so it's evenly spread out. We initially started the program to allow kids that couldn't make the big programs and still wanted to play with their friends and still wanted to be active. It was more of a participation type thing and friendship and camaraderie, and just give the community an option. But now we've started to put together elite teams. We put together a 6th grade elite team, an 8th grade elite team. I think we're putting together a 3rd grade elite team. So as the kids come in, then we'll continue to adapt. So if you're interested in coaching, or if you're interested in putting your kid in the program or looking at it, could be beneficial.
Absolutely. Hickory Hoops, the next Norman Dale could be out there somewhere. You never know. Man, I can't thank you enough, brother. I always appreciate you coming on. We appreciate you so much. Look forward to seeing you again soon, hopefully.
You guys as well. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
You betcha. Colin Hartman, former Hoosier, joining us here on the program. We got lots more coming up. You're listening to Coyle O'Leary on Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We're back right after this.
Hey, little sister, what's your vice wish? Hey, little sister, shotgun on.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dawkins.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Hi, this is AJ Moye, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Here I'm calling. Every home. Been so long.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle Lavery with you here on this Tuesday. It's March 3rd. We're coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Indiana women's team, congratulations to... I think they had 5 make the All-Big Ten team. Allie Patberg and Grace Berger, first teamers. Coaches and media, both of them pretty good. But their tournament starts this week, Todd. Hell, I think it starts tomorrow.
Yeah, it has to because the men's tournament starts next week. So
yeah, wow. We're here. The Indiana, though, they're in the top 4, so they don't play until Friday. They get that double bye. Yep. Double bye with the 23-7 overall record. I don't remember who they're playing. I haven't even looked, but I guess we don't know yet.
They won't know yet. Yeah,
we don't know yet. So see what bracket they're in. But I think they're 4th in that conference. Now, the one thing is they're not. The NCAA released their top 16, which is their top 4 seeds currently projected right now. Indiana's not in that top 16, which just means they're not a top 4 seed. But I think they can obviously work their way into that with some work in this Big Ten tournament here. Big Ten's only got, I think, 4 or 5 teams going from the women's side, but those teams are all good.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the benefits. A little bit the same as on the men's side, not quite as deep, but when you look at it overall, they've got an opportunity to play their way into that top 4, which it's a big deal. It isn't the top 4 get to host the first round, right? Isn't that the way that it works out?
Yes. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. That's it.
So that's why that's such a big deal.
Yeah.
For them to, and if they could go, and they've proven they can beat anyone in the country. I mean, they beat the number 1 team in the country, so they've proven they can do it. And they're going on a little bit of a run and beating, Maryland or Northwestern or Iowa would really give them an opportunity, I think, to bump up into that top 16. And it's a big deal in the women's side of things.
Heck yeah, it is. Jalen Penn, she was the All Big Ten honorable mention. Brenna Wise got the Big Ten Sportsmanship Award, so congratulations to all of them. But Allie Patberg was the player of the week last week. She's averaging like 24 points a game, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 63% shooting from the field. Not a bad stat line.
What's it say about me that I didn't even know there was a Big Ten Sportsmanship Award?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't know about that award either. I just happened to see it. I'm not going to lie to you on that one. I'm like, okay.
You know what? Those awards lost all their value in Todd Leary's world. Those awards lost all their value back in 1989 when Pat Graham won the Trester Award. It's supposed to be the sportsmanship award. And Pat Graham is as ridiculous and over the top as I am. So there's no way Pat Graham wins the Trester Award. And I love him. That. He's the best. I wouldn't trade his personality for anything, but my gosh, the sportsmanship award, there has to be some kid out there somewhere that had a better attitude than he and I had.
Yeah, he also won Mr. Basketball of the Year. Maybe it was a consolation prize because you guys beat them, or they got beat up at the Final Four.
We would have beat them. You know that. They came from some little podunk school down south. Yeah. We would have smacked them, but they didn't get there.
I wish I could have seen that. That would have been fun. I was there. The old Market Square Arena, too. Oh, man. That was back in the day, man. What was it like playing in that gym?
That was one of the old school, old style gyms. It was just like, it was an easy shooting arena. The sight lines, the seats behind the basket were close in perspective to what some of the gyms are nowadays. So it was just an easy gym to shoot in, and I liked it a bunch. Like it was a good one, and but nowadays you just you can't a place like that can't hang around and exist. I mean, the new Bankers Life Fieldhouse is just so awesome and beautiful, and all the amenities are great, and but it's from a basketball shooting perspective, it's not near as easy to shoot in as the old Market Square was.
It certainly had one of the most unique aspects that you could drive under it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I know, because all the buses, we used to always drive in underneath it. And it was cool. Like I loved Market Square.
A couple cool facts. It's where Elvis's last concert was ever held, I believe.
Really? That is interesting. Yeah.
I saw President George W. Bush speak there. I saw Paul McCartney there. I saw Billy Joel there.
You're dating yourself.
Yeah, well,
enormously right now.
I know, but there's that. But yeah, it was a cool place.
We were the last state champion to play in there.
Oh yeah,
the next year they played it in the Dome.
Oh, that's right. For Damon Bailey to set the stinking record for the 41,000 people in there. Yeah. I was there for that too. That was pretty cool.
I think they could have sold 141,000 seats.
If they'd have had room, they could have got it in there. You're not lying, man. Yep. That was a weird time, man. It was kind of similar though to the Romeo thing when Romeo came through, when he made it. We talked about earlier about making your college choice. I was there for that too when he was at the New Albany's gym, and there was like 2,000 people in there, 2,500 people for that. I mean, just people. It gets crazy sometimes.
Yeah, well, it was a singular awesome event. Now it's turned into just a blue ribbon. We pass out ribbons to everybody in the state, and we have 17 champions now. What do we have? 19 classes in Indiana basketball now. Everybody gets a participation award.
Everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah, I mean, in today's world, so in all reality, we're talking about how awesome that was. If that was today, there isn't a chance in the world they'd have that thing in a Lucas Oil Stadium. They'd have it in Bankers Life Fieldhouse because there isn't a chance in the world you'd get 40,000 people to show up for it.
It's something funny. Bob Knight went to a women's game 4 days ago, and it was like no big deal. He was in Assembly Hall, and it was like no big deal. Of course, a week before, the entire nation was watching. And now then he just goes, and now he can just go and sit and eat popcorn.
Yeah, I mean, that's something, Doc had said this, a year or so ago or whatever. I mean, he's been back to Assembly Hall.
Yes.
A dozen times.
In the dead of night.
Maybe more than that. It's just never been during an event. So
right.
People just look at that a little bit differently. And, he was there for, he is, let's not kid ourselves. I mean, his health is not great, and he's out. Bob Hamill and he seem to be out having dinner with their wives, a couple of times a week. You see sightings of them around town, and it's cool. And I'm glad for that. I'm glad that he's back here in Bloomington, because there isn't anywhere he's going to go around here where he's not going to be beloved and recognized, and people enjoy seeing him, and I think that's why he's back here in Bloomington.
Yeah, and getting to go out and do the things, and that's just that's how it should be. That's how the end should be able to come.
Right. I agree.
And hopefully it does get that way. We later on, we're going to talk about some bid stealers, man. Todd's been looking through all these conferences. Well, there are 32 conferences, I think. I'm in something called the Jerome. There's a media thing where you pick all the conference championships. And like Todd said earlier, man, he goes, that's a chore, as this season especially. But who gets into the tournament? I think a lot of people forget that there are teams that probably have virtually no shot to get into the tournament, but yet each year a couple teams will get in because somebody is going to win a conference tournament that you really don't expect to see that. But when that happens, that knocks another team like not necessarily Indiana this year, but it happened to them last year. Those bubble teams that are hanging there.
Yep.
When you get those bid stealers, man, it's like, crap.
Yeah. I mean, it is that's what. Like I'm a basketball. I'm an admitted basketball nerd, junkie, whatever you want to call it. Like I just when conference week starts, it literally is like it's my Christmas and it's my it's a month long. Just I love every aspect of it, and I truly love watching I love watching the conferences where these teams have to win their conference to get in. I mean, not to have a chance, not to be on the bubble or whatever. I mean, they literally have to win to get in. And it's not always just the William and Marys of the world. It's not always just the tiny, small schools. A lot of times, you're talking about a school like, you can be talking about a school like St. Louis as an example. I mean, that team, most likely does not get in if they don't win their conference tournament. And, they got to beat Dayton. That's a big deal, but how many times have we seen this happen? I mean, we've seen it. It's time and time again. We've seen that's why it's March Madness, because there's somebody, not just one, but there will be 4 or 5 different tournaments that has somebody knock somebody off and get to the tournament. And I love watching it. It's the best.
It is the best. It is absolutely the best. And man, there's just so much fun. It's just like a party. It's like a 3-week party where that first 2 weeks, those 2 weekends, they really are special. I mean, you got people that go to, we've talked about this, Las Vegas. I mean, I'm talking an unbelievable amount of people that go there just because these games are going on, and they're not going on there, but they go there just to watch them all, to be a part of it all, and it is a festival almost. It's not a scheduled festival, but it is a festival.
Not almost. It's beyond any festival you've ever been to. Like it's insane, and I know we can't really make an announcement about it right now or not, but we're trying to put something together here where you're not going to have to get on an airplane and fly out somewhere. You're going to be able to do it right here in the state of Indiana and have a very similar
blast.
Experience. So
I'm telling you, I have done it. You've done it a 1,000 times. I've done it as well. It is. If you are a fan of the NCAA tournament, which I am just an absolute kid at Christmas when that is going on, that deal out in Vegas, it's like on crack.
You know how there's events that happen and you remember where you were, like on a sad note, like when we heard a couple of weeks ago Kobe died in a helicopter crash. I mean, we will always remember where we were when we heard that. It's just one of those scenarios that happens like that. That's a serious note, and I don't mean to compare the two, but you know what I mean. There's just certain situations where you remember where you were when you saw it or heard it or whatever. And the ridiculous part, this is how big a nerd I am, is I have so many of those events that took place in the NCAA tournament. Like I can tell you when Bryce Drew hit the shot for them to win
against, was it UCLA?
I can't even remember who they were playing. I don't think it was UCLA. I can't even remember who they were playing.
Missouri maybe.
But when he hit that shot, I was at Champs Sports Bar in Indianapolis, and very similar to as when I was doing the radio with Fish in 2002 and they beat Duke, I was standing on the table in Champs, and I was one of probably 50 people standing on top of their table in a restaurant after he hit that shot, like high five. Like it was those moments. I mean, that's where I'm a meathead and I'm a idiot jock, because I live for those those moments like that I shouldn't say I live for it, but I certainly enjoy them. And it's a highlight of my year every year. I love it.
Man, we got lots more coming up to talk about as well, including the NCAA tournament as it's sneaking up on us in the next hour. Stay tuned. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Mike Schuman's going to join us in the next hour. We're back after this.
Change your state of mind, listen, baby.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dawkins.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
You're on the line with Jamal Meeks, former Indiana Hoosier, number 23, 1992. And I'm on the beat with Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle Lee with you here on this Tuesday, and it is March 3rd. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Please, thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate everybody as always. Feel free to hit us up on the text line, 812-269-6367. That's 812-269-6367. Questions, comments? Indiana opens up the baseball season tomorrow, man. Todd, we are almost in spring, man. Purdue, too. They get to open up against Purdue, 3:05. Hopefully, it'll be dry enough to do so. Be kind of cool to do that. Then you got a basketball game that night, so a little double duty.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not speaking your language. You needed to say golf season is starting, and there's a baseball game that's going on during
getting in the way of it.
Yes. No, not getting – I mean, it can happen simultaneously. It can be at the same time. It's just – there's a baseball game during golf season is the way some of us look at it. But, yes, and if you're going to go to a college baseball game, IU's got the best field, and they put on a good product. Like it is. I know I went with you last year, and I couldn't have been more entertained in going to that. It was fun.
I reposted something yesterday I saw on Twitter. If you think that there was too many fouls called in the Big Ten this season, thank goodness you're not a fan of an SEC team or an ACC team. Indiana or the Big Ten came in third in total number of fouls called with 6,466. That's 461 per 14 teams. The ACC, you move up. They were at 69.76 or 465 per 15 teams. And the SEC, 7,746 fouls or 553 per 14 teams. That's an additional 100 fouls per team. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, that's why I think over the years they always talk about the Big Ten is a more physical conference, because they let you get away with more banging and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think that's been the reputation for a long time. But, man, I mean, the last you made a great point the other day. Like we as two competitive people have done a decent job all year long in talking about basketball and specifically IU, and not complained about the officiating a whole lot. And you've still done a good job. I've kind of thrown it all out the window in the last 3 days because Sunday was just it was just a train wreck for the officials. Like it was
horrible.
The calls that were made and the lack of calls that weren't made were just so inconsistent. And that's where, that's unacceptable. It's just crazy.
Yesterday we had Christian Lander on, and I think one of the things that it's not lost, but we talked about his reclassification attempts, and they're not thinking about this. They are all in to reclassify. So unless he can't get everything accomplished to do that, he is reclassifying.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
you will see.
Do you know his age? Is he super young? Or is he old for his grade? Because here's what happens a lot of times, and I am not saying this is Christian Lander case, but I've seen this over the years, especially with AAU, is there is a lot of kids in the 7th, 8th, 9th grade that will reclassify down in order to
that happened a lot when I was in school.
Yeah. I mean, when you and I were back in school, it happened
all the time.
Eric Montross did it, for example. I mean, like there was 3 kids on my team. I didn't do it, but there was 3 kids on my team that did it.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
I didn't either, but I kind of wish I had.
Well, I hadn't thought about that, what you're bringing up, because this is a great point, because that harkens back to this day. Kids were trying to become more mature first. Now they're doing the opposite. They're trying to jump ahead.
How many kids are there? I mean, this would be an interesting stat. How many kids are there in the NBA? And wait till they take the one and done rule away. How many kids will there be that won't even be 21 years old, that are not even old enough to drink? It's crazy. They're not even old enough to go out to eat dinner at some of the places that the teams go out and eat dinner. It's crazy. And some of them can't
even get into some of the places they go.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, they can't even go eat dinner at some of the bars and stuff that they go to.
Crazy.
Right? But I mean, and I don't know if this is the case for Christian Lander. I'm just saying there are a lot of instances where when a kid reclassifies, he's kind of reclassifying back to the class he was in originally. And I don't know that that's the case with him. So please, if anybody's listening to this, don't say I'm saying Christian Lander reclassified down, years ago, and now he's reclassifying back up. I don't have any idea, but I do know that happens with a lot of these cases.
Yeah, I don't hear about that too often now. I had forgotten all about it until you just brought this up.
Oh no, it happens a lot. It happens.
Are they still doing it?
But it happens before high school. So it'll happen mainly
7th, 8th grade.
It'll be in 8th grade. Yeah. So you'll go to the 8th grade in one place, and then you'll turn around and go to the 8th grade at a new school.
Somewhere else.
It's somewhere else. And that happens a lot. Like that is not uncommon at all. And I don't have a problem with it. I don't think it's a bad thing because, it gives the kids a chance to develop. And there's a lot of kids that, they need it from an academic standpoint. It's not a bad thing from an academic standpoint. So I don't I don't have any issue with that at all. I don't
I can
think that's a bad
guarantee
thing.
you there's no way in hell I could have reclassified up from a maturity standpoint.
Oh, my
There's
gosh.
no way, me personally. I'm amazed that these kids can do that. I take my hat off to them, man. I'm like impressed. But some kids are a lot more mature today.
At 49 years old, I'm scared to reclassify up to being a 50-year-old right now. So I can't even imagine these guys going from a junior in high school to a freshman in college. Like that is. I mean, you know what it's like. I mean, let's just analyze the situation. I mean, you go to a whole new environment. I mean, you don't live under your parents' roof anymore. You're kind of on your own. There's no rules. You don't have to be in at a certain time. Like you really need some upperclassmen to be good people and have a good influence and lead you in the right direction. If you're going to go into that and be as successful as you can be, there are some kids that can handle it. I just know. I mean, you're saying you weren't one of them. I wasn't one of them either.
Yeah, I hear you. Mike Schumer is going to join us in the next segment. We'll talk a little bit about this IU football. Also, they named a new defensive line coach. That's kind of gotten lost in all of this that's going on. Samson James in the portal and whatnot. But Kevin Peoples from Tulane was just named the defensive line coach. They originally had hired the guy from Michigan State. He ended up staying there, so they ended up getting this guy from Tulane. Don't know much about him, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, you know what's interesting is, right when, well, even before the bowl game, I mean, losing the offensive coordinator and Kalen DeBoer, like I think at that point, at least I don't know why I'm throwing you into this category, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to kind of throw the off season into a whirlwind a little bit, and once they get this figured out, everything will calm down. Well, since the season ended and the bowl game happened, it has been anything but calm down. It has been a Ferris wheel. People going here and leaving there, and the transfer portal. I just feel kind of stupid that I didn't see a lot more of this would become a deal ahead of time, because I mean it's with all the coaching changes and all the guys leaving, and for whatever different reasons, it's been a revolving door.
Yeah, and more so now. Like we talked about earlier, you mentioned the advent of this potential change in rules, and it's going to go beyond the Big Ten. I think the NCAA may end up adopting that just as quickly, to where you will be able, an athlete will be able to have a one-time transfer. I mean, there's too many people that are behind it. Coaches like Jim Harbaugh, and especially with these guys, these coaches are making all this money. And all this talk about stuff, they've got to give them something, and I think this is one of those things.
So I mean, tell me if I'm just being narcissistic here and thinking this way, but so from Indiana's basketball perspective, I don't look at that as that big of a negative. Like I think there'll be a lot of kids, if you go, if a kid goes to, I'm just going to use an in-state school just so that you see what level I'm talking about, but you go to an Indiana State or an Evansville and has a great year, he could easily flip over and go to IU the next year with no holdout, no sit out, no ramifications against anyone. And IU is pretty much a step up. There's not going to be too many kids go to IU and then leave and go to Duke. But from a football perspective, it's different, because if a kid comes, Indiana becomes kind of that Indiana State in that scenario, and that kid comes to Indiana and has a great year, he could leave and go to Ohio State, because they're probably going to play for a national championship, or going to leave and go to Auburn or Alabama or Georgia or somewhere. And so, I think it would hurt the football program more than it would hurt the basketball program. And that's why I would say I don't love the idea. And I know I've kind of been by myself in saying that. I don't love the idea of it, because I think once you make a decision, if you really want to leave, and it for all the right reasons, and it is for the right reasons, and you really think it's beneficial to leave, it's okay to sit. I mean, you should have to sit out a year. There should be a little bit of a holdout. You can't just transfer because you want to. I think this is going to open it up, and we're going to see just a ridiculous amount of transfers.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Indiana; they lost 5 coaches this past season. 5.
I didn't see that coming, to be honest with you.
That's a lot. And look where they went. They went to Alabama, Texas. Indiana is not a destination football school, as you mentioned. Basketball, different story. Football, not a destination. It's a layover. It's a stepping stone still. And that's what happens to other schools.
And that's what I mean. I think the football program will suffer with that transfer rule more than the basketball team will.
Yeah, people are not looking to come to Indiana. They're looking to go from Indiana to someplace else in that regard, probably.
Well, and it's just been on past history. I mean, you look at, what do you want to – I know it was probably the biggest factor when I chose where I was going was, I wanted to win. Like, I wanted a chance to win a title. And, those kids that are coming to Indiana – I don't want this to sound as bad as I know it's going to, but we were super excited and felt like Indiana reached the pinnacle going to the Outback Bowl. These, you go to Ohio State, you got an opportunity to play for a national championship. And I see the real big schools. So Indiana in basketball, I see them benefiting from that transfer rule a lot more than the parity of the middle schools. I think it'll be more like the NBA where we're seeing these super teams now with, 4 gigantic all-stars on it. And I think we'll see more of that when it comes to, basketball now. I think we'll see, Indiana could pick up. I don't know that you want to fill your scholarships because you'll want to have the opportunity to pick up 2 or 3 transfers every year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. That's something that hasn't worked for Archie so far is this transfer situation. He's done it, once? Just one transfer has come into Indiana, grad transfer. They haven't visited that route.
Joey Brunk. And then
Joey Brunk. You're right.
Big kid from St. Mary's last year.
That's those two. That's who I was thinking of, but I forgot about Joey Brunk. But it's going to be interesting to see what next year brings because – big class in that 21 class, but he's got a lot of scholarships too. Does he fill it with all freshmen? Does he try to bring somebody in to mix in? Bob Knight did it one time. And what happened? They won a freaking national championship. He did not go to the JUCO market.
Yeah.
And he brought in
he threatened it against us a couple times.
Did he?
Yeah, he threatened it a few times.
I'll bring in JUCO players to replace everyone who use SOBs.
Yep. You know the famous story about him. That's how Damon Bailey got such a big name was Bob Knight telling Steve Alford, I think it was.
When he was in 8th grade.
That he was in 8th grade and he'd start for him right now. Well, I can tell you, I was a freshman when Damon was a senior. And I can tell you Damon's name was brought up probably 3 times a week. In there. We knew Damon was coming. That's for sure. Cause coach reminded us every turnover I had, he reminded me.
Brad Underwood over in Illinois got him a nice 3-year extension. Deservedly so.
Yep,
yeah, no, he's got Illinois doing things they haven't done in a long time. So,
and still not respected nationally. Finally this week, they finally are ranked. They bump back up to 20. And I know they've been ranked from time to time throughout the year, but, like I remember I told you last week, there was 6 teams ranked in the Big Ten last week, and it skipped 2 teams that were tied for second. And I'm just like, nationally, what kind of eye test do these guys have to pass in order to get ranked? It just doesn't make any sense. And then, now there's, 8 teams ranked in the Big Ten. So, did you look at the rankings? Did you see the Big Ten has numbers 16, 18, 19?
Yes, there's it's like the whole. I was like, "Are you kidding me? I've never
20,
seen that
23,
many.
24, 25. Yeah, it's got 18, 19, 20, and 23, 24, 25. The whole back end of the top 25 is almost all Big Ten.
And that's a year, and that's after a season of just beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
So pretty amazing. Hey, we got a lot more coming up. Mike Schumann's going to join us next year on Indiana Sports Beat. We got plenty more to talk about. I can't wait to start previewing the Big Ten tournament. That's going to be exciting. But stay tuned. We got lots more coming up from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studio. Schumann up next. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway, Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Hi, this is AJ Moye, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
I just think, your commitment level and how you have to approach the road has got to be different. And you got to have an attitude that, quite frankly, you just don't give a shit about nothing. When you go into the game, it is about competing. And it is about playing as hard as you possibly can. And finding a way in these environments in the game to get it to the last 12, 8, and 4, and then find a way to win. We're not good enough to go and just knock somebody on their back in the first 10 minutes of a road game and find a way. But we are good enough that if we play hard for long stretches, to hang around and find a way to get one, which is what we've done in 3 of our last 4 road games. So I'm proud of that, and we just have to stay with it now in this last week as we go home. There's no gimmies just because you're at home. You have to stay with it in terms of your effort and your attitude, and you have to be committed right now. We have 2 seniors finishing up, at the end of the week, but Minnesota on Wednesday, to me, is an opportunity for us to get a home game under our belt, and Minnesota's good. We had a heck of a game with them 2 weeks ago. I expect them to make adjustments, and we're going to have our work cut out for us just like everybody does. So we just got to stop worrying. I think if I answered your question properly, stop going into these places really worrying about where you're playing, who you're playing, and you go out there and you battle and you compete, and that feels a lot better. And it gives you confidence when you play like that.
Question here to the right.
That may be the most direct and best thing I've heard Archie Miller say all season. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Jim Coyle, Todd Leary with you, joined now by Mike Schumann. Man, that has got to be one of the best things I've heard him say all year long, Mike Schumann.
I would agree. I mean, you see these guys play on the road, and they look like completely different players. They look like the road environment is impacting them, and I think that's where that comment is coming from. I have a good friend that's a really good golfer, and he says all the time that.
Thanks, Mike.
No, I was going to say, you don't know him that well.
I said really good, Todd.
Oh, my bad.
Oh, really good.
And he always says, man, you just got to step up there and tell yourself to F off if you're getting nervous. And it's just always resonated with me, and it's easier said than done, obviously. And the people that are good at playing on the road or good up in the tee box when the pressure's on, I think have a unique ability to do that. And I think that's exactly where Archie's going. It's just, who cares where you're playing? I know it's easy to say that, but the good teams, the good players, they find a way on the road.
I know you feel the same way, Todd Leary, about those statements.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny because I know Coach Knight did a golf show for years, and it was one of the most ridiculous. Like, it was just funny. I mean, there was no golf to learn out of it, but it was just funny to watch some of the stuff that was on there. But I did translate a lot of what Coach Knight taught us into golf, and from the standpoint of, Coach spent a lot of time, and I think the movie Hoosiers, Angelo Pizzo has always been a Bob Knight and an IU fan. I mean, I think the movie Hoosiers kind of said a little bit of it without having to talk about Bob Knight, in that, look, the basket's the same height, the 3-point line's the same distance on the road as it is at home. The only difference is people are yelling and cheering. So if you truly eliminate that out of your mindset, and it doesn't affect you and bother you. And so, I can remember going back at a game at Iowa one time and him saying, look, have you shot a shot from that spot on the floor before, whether it was back at Lawrence North or whether it was at, in Damon's case, he said, whether it was at Mitchell or Paoli. But he said, you've shot it at Assembly Hall. You're shooting it in Iowa. Who cares where we are? You've shot that 19-foot shot before and made it. So what's the difference what city you're in when you shoot it? And from a golf perspective, I use that same example. Like, you'll step up and there'll be a shot and you've got to hit it over water, and you've got a sand trap in front of you don't want to be in and all that, and you stand there and you're like, wait a minute, I've hit a million good 9-irons before. Why do I care what all the other stuff is? I'm not aiming for the water. I'm not aiming for the sand trap. I mean, I'm trying to hit a good 9-iron. And it's the same way as I always relate that back to how he taught us with the, that same, I can always remember him saying that same 19-foot shot. And it's just like, I think these guys I think Archie Miller's trying to get them to understand, look, if you play hard and you block out all of the other stuff, what difference does it matter what gym you're in? I mean, if you dive on a loose ball, who cares whether it's at home or away or whatever it is? And I think that's really the mindset he's trying to get to him. And that is extremely similar to what Coach Knight, is a little different language. I mean, Archie cleans it up, but it's very similar to the way Coach Knight says it.
And Todd, isn't there even like a next level of player that, not only not being bothered by those situations, but aren't there some players that thrive?
That when they play better off of that? Like, It's like people are motivated. It doesn't mean one person is tougher or mentally tougher or whatever than another, but certain people are just motivated by different forms of leadership. And so, sometimes Coach Knight would scream and yell at a guy and it would help me. Like, he could scream and yell at me and it makes me, my blood pressure probably goes up and I tense up and I am ready to take on a lion at that point. And then there's some guys that that doesn't work for them, and they just need to be told, what exactly to go do and all that. And that's how they react to it. And the crowds to me were that way. When I knew they wanted me to miss, it made me want to make it that much more. And I loved the environments when now I'll also say I did. I mean, it's not like I went on the road and played great all the time. Like you definitely struggle. And I think more than some players struggling, what Coach Knight was trying to get us to do is he wanted us to play at a certain level. And just because, like at Purdue, for example, they're going to raise their level of play because of the crowd, because of their support and all that. And that's what we had to be able to match and do, but it shouldn't affect us negatively in how we played.
And then Mike, as we look forward, me and Todd were talking earlier about some potential bid stealers this year. Indiana not as affected by that as they have been here in the past, but it can still be effective or affect them as far as their seed line, depending on how many bid stealers we see. And a year like this, in this college season, the way it has gone, You don't know. We have no idea. Todd was looking through there. He's like, gee whiz, there's so many conferences that have so many teams that it may only be like 4 or 5 deep. But the thing is, if every conference is like that, that means every conference potentially has a bid stealer in it.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And that's why I don't get too caught up at this point in bracketology because, first of all, there's so many people doing it. Who the heck knows who's right? But second of all, I mean, just win, man. If you take care of your own business, you don't have to worry about this. And I think that's where Indiana is right now, in my opinion, my own uninformed bracketology is if they win their 2 games this week, they're a lock. I don't think there's much debate about that. If you're 20-11 overall, 10-10 in the Big Ten, I think there's no way you could keep Indiana out, even if they lose their first round Big Ten tournament game. But if you lose one of these this week, then you do have to worry about all those bid stealers and all that stuff that goes into that. So I think that's where they are. But the bracketology, I mean, at this point, it's just guessing because there's, literally millions of moving parts that all are, could impact one another. And so it's just, I guess you call it educated guessing. I don't know.
Absolutely. Also saw a commitment yesterday, Caleb First going to Purdue. Not a big shock. I mean, that's been the word that he was kind of a Purdue lean. So it's not a huge shock in that development.
It's not, but it's a great win for Purdue, no doubt about it. I think the toughest thing about him is when I've watched him, I've always viewed him as a kind of a 4-year guy. So I think if you're disappointed that you missed on Caleb First, you're probably also disappointed that you're going to see him for a long time to come. He's a 6'8" kid that plays on the block, and he doesn't, he's getting better in the perimeter game, getting better handling the basketball, but it's not one of those skill sets that's going to quickly, translate to the NBA. So I think he's going to be kind of working on that aspect and probably play all 4 years at Purdue and be a really good college player, an impactful player from day one. So I think that's a guy that Indiana's going to have to get used to seeing for a while, unfortunately. But it probably opens the door more for Indiana for Trey Kaufman, who Purdue was also recruiting, and based on everything I've read and heard, I don't think those two guys are going to end up at the same place. Both forwards, a little bit different games. Kaufman's more of a 3-4, First is more of a 4-5. But I don't think that they're planning to go to the same school. So if Indiana can land Trey Kaufman along with Christian Lander in their 2021 class, I think you're not going to get everybody. Is the bottom line.
Yeah. Isn't Caleb First, like when I think of him, and I've only seen him play a half of basketball, but he reminds me of like a Robbie Hummel type player, like just what you're talking about. He's going to be like a 4-year guy that, by the time he's a senior, we're going to be like, gosh, this guy's been there forever, and he's probably going to contribute right away. But I mean, he just, to me, he reminds me, Robbie Hummel might be, the high end or the top end of where he could get to, but Robbie Hummel wasn't that great as a freshman. We just remember him being, he was a solid, good player, and he just turned into being a great player.
Yeah, from a contribution standpoint, I could definitely see that on the top end for First. I think their games are different. First is more of a kind of play on the block kind of guy, where I always thought Hummel was more of a kind of a wing, could knock down 3-point shots. I don't think you'll see First doing that, at least not early in his career. And that's always been my skepticism about First in terms of how his game translates to college, is because he's only 6'8", but he does most of his work on the block, and against bigger size in the Big Ten, I don't know how effective he'll be right off the bat. And plus he's left-handed, and he's really left-hand dominant, kind of like Trace Jackson Davis. Doesn't have a real good right hand at this point, and it's not as big or as strong as Trace. So he could struggle to score, but I think he's going to be a solid contributor early. And like I said, I think all 4 years he'll be a factor for Purdue.
I just wanted him to come to IU because I wanted next year for us to be able to have 5 left-handed guys on the floor at one time.
Yeah, that would have been very interesting.
I don't think that's ever happened. I sure don't remember it if it has.
No, I can't imagine
they'd had that chance.
Even though that was not expected for First to end up in Bloomington, Indiana still they're going to have to replace these bigs, man, here soon. And so where do they turn, Mike?
I mentioned Kaufman, although I don't really think of him as a big.
He stands
6'8",
out. And shoots.
Yeah, 6'8", 6'9", more out on the perimeter. I closest comparison I can come to for him is like a Christian Watford type of a game. So I don't think he's going to be that real size, Big Ten size that you need down low. I don't think that they're for 2020 for next year. Hopefully they don't lose anybody in the block beyond Deron Davis, so they don't have an immediate need. Although it would be nice, maybe to have a grad transfer come in for the short term. But looking out to 2021, I think you've got some names out there that they've offered. Like Frank Kepnang is probably the highest profile guy, but I don't know how much traction they've really got going with him, but I think it's just going to be a case here in the spring here in a few weeks where, when AAU starts, you're going to see a lot of names start to pop up that we haven't talked too much about. But it's clearly with Lander on board, it's clearly the focus is to look more for big guys with, Brunk and Jackson Davis probably both going out the door after next season.
Yeah, so lots going on there. On the football side of things for Indiana, Samson James in the portal, like we talked about. Also, Kevin Peoples named the defensive line coach from Tulane. I talked about this earlier, Mike. Indiana football has lost a lot in this offseason. Offensive coordinator, defensive line coach, special teams coordinator, Dave Ballou and Ray, they're scientists in the performance end of things, strength coach and performance. Samson James now, Coy Cronk, Peyton Ramsey. That's a lot.
Yeah, you said them all. I don't know if there's anything more than that, but I mean, to me, it's been like just a non-ending series of gut punches since they won that 8th game, and everybody was happy after they reclaimed the bucket, got the 8th win. All was good, and then it started very soon thereafter with DeBoer, and it's just been like it seems like every other week there's something new that you're like, oh man, how did that happen? But it just keeps coming. I think the Samson James one might be the most concerning just because of what it does to their depth at running back. I mean, you're talking about if Stevie Scott, something happens to him, now your starter is a true freshman, which obviously worked out well for Scott when he was a true freshman. But, this is a team that, going into fall camp last year, running back depth was like, the hot topic. They had so many different options with Ronnie Walker and Cole Guest, Ivory Winters, and all those guys are gone now, along with James. So it's a completely different dynamic. I know it came out last night that there is a running back out of Arkansas that's going to take an official visit to IU later this month as a potential grad transfer with 2 years left. So that's probably one route you're going to see them try to kind of stopgap the flow out here is to try to bring somebody in for a short-term fix. But man, it's been a tough couple months after a really good season. So you hope that they can kind of change the narrative here starting with spring practice later this week.
Yep. Speaking of spring, baseball tomorrow opens up, man, at home. Indiana against Purdue at 3:05 to open the season at home. 6-3 right now on the season. They've had some wins over some ranked teams. They played a tough schedule. I think they're ahead of the game where they were last year.
Yeah, it's a really impressive start to the year. I think they lost basically their entire weekend pitching rotation, lost a lot of key guys. I mean, what was it, 10 guys that were drafted into the majors, a lot to replace, but as you said, they took a game from LSU, they beat East Carolina. There's another ranked win in there that I'm forgetting. So, really impressive start to the season. Now you got 5 this week at home. Very winnable games to keep the momentum going. I think Jeff Mercer's obviously doing a really nice job with a pretty tough situation this year to build on his Big Ten title with all the talent that went out the door.
Then you got the women's program doing very, very well this season. They end up with a double bye in the women's tournament, which will start for them on Friday. Just had, I think, 4 of the players named to all Big Ten teams, with Allie Patberg and Grace Berger being first team all Big Teners. A great season for them and an opportunity to make it even better yet.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest opportunity there in the women's tournament is the potential to get a home court situation for the NCAA. I mean, obviously they're a lock for the NCAA tournament, but they have the potential, if they do really well this weekend, to actually play home games for their first couple rounds in the tournament, which would be just a great situation for them and set them up for a potential Sweet 16 run. they're going to have some tough games this week, no doubt. I'm going to go to the one on Friday, which most likely will be against Rutgers. It just depends on who comes through, but they play Friday afternoon in Indianapolis as the 4 seed. Number 5 seed is Rutgers. And then if they win that one, they'd play against Maryland, who's the top seed, and a team that's, just Indiana just really struggled against this year. Just, obviously Maryland's one of the best teams in the country, and the matchups just weren't good. So if they could find a way to pull that upset on Saturday, then I think at that point you're talking about really setting themselves up for some home games for the NCAA.
Lots to get to, man. Mike Schumann, Daily Hoosier, check him out.
All right, gentlemen. Have a great week.
See you, bud.
You as well. There's Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier joining us. Man, there's a lot to get to there. We got a little more to finish her out, and we're done for the day. Stay tuned. We're back after this from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Hi, this is AJ Moye, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle here with you here on this Tuesday. It's March 3rd. Man, there's some games tonight to watch. I mean, there were some good games last night. I mentioned that Baylor-Texas Tech game. Who was the other game I was watching?
Duke.
Duke. That game. Man, Duke, I thought North Carolina State was going to sneak out of there for a minute, and then Duke went on that run.
Well, and I will say North Carolina State just beat them not that long ago. And actually, I think they just beat North Carolina also. and that they're kind of a bubble team. I mean, truly, as an Indiana fan, we were rooting for Duke last night.
Well, they got it done, but
they got it done
tonight. Let's see. I don't see a lot of great games tonight, but we talked about those.
What? There's some really good games tonight.
I'm on the wrong day.
You must be, because the Big Ten tonight has 3 really good games: Michigan State at Penn State, and Maryland at Rutgers, and Purdue at Iowa.
Not showing up. They're not showing up on my list here today. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
All Division I. None of my Big Ten teams are showing up on here.
Michigan State plays at Penn State. That's a 7:00 game, and Maryland at Rutgers is also a 7:00 game. This is the funny part. So looking at the lines on it, Maryland again for the second time is leading the league and is a underdog at a team. They were an underdog at Minnesota last week, and now they're an underdog at Rutgers. It's just crazy. Like, they are. People who say the Big Ten is not any good, like they don't like basketball.
What is the spread on that game?
1. Rutgers by 1. I mean, it's a small line. It's them by 1, but still.
Right, right. No, it's a toss-up. That shows you. I mean, that's
the fact that a top 10 ranked team in the country, a team they're talking about will get a 2 seed, is playing a team that is virtually on the bubble and has a chance of not making the tournament, and that team is favored. It's crazy. And then you get a team like Iowa that's ranked in the top 20, that's also tied for second in the league. They're at home against a team that's not going to make the tournament in Purdue, and they're only favored by 4. So it's just that. I mean, that's how even the whole league is. It's nuts.
Well, there goes Purdue's last opportunity. Well, no, they play in the tournament is their last opportunity, but they go to Iowa tonight. And we remember what they did to Iowa when they came to visit them in West Lafayette.
Yep. They won by 36.
I think Iowa was going to punch them right in the mouth.
Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be a payback game. And right now, I mean, Iowa's playing good right now. I mean, they are.
And let's don't forget, they have like 7 scholarship players on that roster.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, well, you know what's good for them, in the Indiana game here at Assembly Hall, CJ Frederick, they're good. They're, with their sharpshooting freshman, got hurt and twisted his ankle really, really bad. Well, he came back and played the first game, their last game back, or the last game they played was his first game back. So they've got him back at full strength, and for them, they're back to full strength, and that is, that's a tough thing for. I think them and Illinois are going to go into the NCAA tournament and surprise some people. Michigan State winning or Maryland winning is not going to surprise anybody, but I think Iowa and Illinois have a real chance at going deep into getting to that second weekend, and then from there on, who knows what.
So Purdue also, they're in danger of missing the NIT, man.
Yeah, I mean, they play this game at Iowa, and then they've got Rutgers at home, which, that's not going to be a cakewalk. And then they're going to have the first round of the Big Ten tournament, which, it's going to be probably another game against probably Rutgers or a Penn State or somebody like that. I mean, they're going to need to win one of these next couple. Can you get into the NIT if you are 500?
I think you can. I think you just can't have a losing record.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, if they win, they'd get to 16 wins and 16 losses if they win one of these last 3. So, I'm pretty sure it isn't going to be tonight.
Yeah, here's what it says from their Wikipedia. It says, in an effort to maintain some quality. I like how they got that in their own deal.
Yeah,
in an effort to maintain some quality, a rule saying that a team must have a 500 or better record to qualify for the NIT was imposed.
Yeah, I saw a thing. I saw something, and correct me if I'm wrong with this, but I'm pretty sure I saw this, that Joe Lunardi wanted to come out with a rule that you had to be 500 in your conference in order to be selected in the NCAA tournament, in order to be an at-large bid.
I mean, someone may have. I don't know who it was. It's very possible.
I know. I know. I heard Joe Lunardi say it, and I mean, in doing so, think about this. In doing so, you would be eliminating Indiana, Rutgers, and Michigan from the NCAA tournament this year.
Yeah, I think that instance is so rare, but it's very possible. As in right now, you're perfectly correct. But normally, that's not going to happen. Normally, if you have a losing record, it's because you're not good enough because your conferences aren't this deep. This, on the other hand, though, you're exactly right. It would eliminate worthy teams from being in there. So I don't know that they end up putting that in there or not, and just kind of let it. It usually works itself out.
Yeah, it usually does. I agree, but I mean, the Big Ten is an example because of how big the whole conference is. But the ACC, I mean, the big conferences is who this would hurt. Obviously, there's no way you're going to get a team like ETSU that's ever going to get in if they have a losing record. So, I mean, that's not even going to be an issue. It's just going to be the Power 5 conferences that would have an issue with it. But I mean, you know how many teams are in the ACC and in the Big Ten. I mean, it's not even crazy for them to have teams that have a losing. I mean, most of the time in the ACC, you're playing a good team every single night. Just not this year, but in the Big Ten, you are. So I just don't understand. I mean, I'm talking about something that's not a rule yet. I just heard Joe Lunardi, who seems to be kind of on the forefront of when these things happen. I mean, he's the best bracketologist. And for him to say that he thought
except
that
for
was
our
a good
friend
idea.
Mike DeCourcy, of course.
Yeah, he's the best. He's the best ESPN bracketologist. Yeah, best ESPN bracketologist.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I agree with Eric completely. You're right on. It's just there's always going to be an attempt at change of some sort, but that's because they want to keep things moving. There's always change in everything we do, so I guess you always have to look at that.
You know what though? But I mean, here's kind of the thing, and I'm with it. I'm not being the old school grandpa here saying, can't change anything or whatever. But I mean, the NCAA tournament and March Madness is one of the most fun things in the world. Why are we tweaking? Why would it need to be tweaked?
It's perfect. It doesn't need to be touched.
Right. It doesn't.
It does not need to be touched. They've given the extra 4 teams the opportunity. I think we're good. Just leave it alone. Yeah. I don't think that the 3-point line, they're done moving that. I don't see that going back. But now that's not to say that, one day it doesn't get moved, I guess. But
yeah, if they move it back, I don't think they'll move it beyond this one. I think they got it right.
I think they found the spot. They found the spot that makes it a really difficult shot, and it's rewarded for being that difficulty.
Yep, agree.
But man, it's been a great show. Fun. Yeah.
We got the other good games. If you want to start getting into the conference tournament season, the Horizon League starts tonight, and that's a conference to keep your eye on. If you're a bubble team watcher or you're rooting for a bubble team, you need Wright State to win that conference tournament. If Wright State will get in the NCAA tournament, in my opinion, whether they win it or not. So there won't be another team get in unless another team beats them in that conference tournament. So
who all is in the Horizon League? I'm trying to pull them.
Northern Kentucky, Green Bay, Youngstown State, Illinois, Chicago. But I mean, Wright State's 15-3 and 25-6 overall, and they're up there in the net rankings where I think they'll probably get in, as an at-large, unless there's just a bunch of other crazy upsets. But
who's got the number 1 seed?
Who that?
IUPUI.
IUPUI has the last seed. They're the very last in that conference.
It says number 1 IUPUI versus lowest remaining seed. That's weird.
Yeah, they are 3-15 in the league and 7-24 overall. So
they do theirs a little differently.
They're behind Detroit, if that tells you anything. We know who's at Detroit.
I'm looking at their schedule, their tournament schedule, and I'm reading it, and it's like on March 5th, it says highest remaining seed versus lowest remaining seed. So they reseed their tournament as they go along, it sounds like. Is who you're playing. It's not a bracket. They realign you per seed. Kind of different.
Yeah, it is different.
Huh. I'll be damned. That's how it should be, to be honest with you. I mean, if you're given a seed, it's because they think you're here. So, and they try to play those games, best versus worst. I think that.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've got IUPUI as a 9 seed right now, playing against a 4 seed Illinois Chicago tonight. That's what they are.
Craziness.
They're a 9 seed.
Oh, fun, man! It's that fun. It's that time of year.
It's that time of year. It's time
Horizon
to nerd out.
League gets started. It's party time. It's party time. We're happy. We're back tomorrow with plenty more, man. We appreciate everybody joining us today on the program. Colin Hartman, appreciate him joining us, and as well as Mike Schumann, our good friend as well. Hope everything's good with Chronic. Looking forward to talking to him again next week, and then we're back tomorrow, man. Can't wait to do it again. Same time, same bat channel, guys. Thanks a lot. I hope everybody else had a great day as well. For Todd, Larry, Jake, I'm Jim Coyle. I'll see you on the radio.